just be a little bit empathetic to what other people are going through.
I'm a strong believer in radical compassion, and I also strongly believe that we lost a lot of that. You can see that with the vaccine debate. It's very binary, right? You're either pro or you're against, and the other party is an idiot, and that's also what the other party thinks. Why can't we just switch sides as well and look at it from a different perspective? And I think you should do that with everything in life.
Welcome to the Prime Life Project podcast, a place to help you unlock your full potential, both mentally and physically, to become the best version of you. Welcome back to another episode of the Prime Life Project podcast. I'm your host, Daniel James, and we're going to get straight into today's episode. Normally I do a bit of an introduction, but I'm very, very excited for today's guest. Just been talking a bit off air. I absolutely love his energy. I know that we're going to provide a lot of value today, so I just want to dive straight into this. So my guest today, now, disclaimer, this is not how you say his last name, okay? Like, I'm going to get him to introduce himself properly with his last name, but I've practiced off air and I can't do it. So unfortunately, I'm just going to have to say it in the English way. But my guest today is Robert Overweg, who is the founder of the Adaptable Mindset program. He and his team empower people to develop their own adaptable mindset, to develop mental flexibility, learn how to create mental space, and to find new possibilities. Robert has over a decade of experience in innovation and digital transformation with clients like Vodafone, eBay, Heineken, and a variety of startups and innovative schools. As a frequent speaker at institutes like MIT and the European Commission, Robert speaks about ways to use technology to work smarter and add value to our world. It's Robert's goal to empower people to live a life full of possibilities. Robert, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much, Daniel.
So how do you say your last name?
Overweg.
There we go. So for my guests, you now know why I didn't try to pronounce it. So Robert, like I said to you off air, I'm really not sure where we're going to go today because doing my research into you, you're a very, very interesting person. And this topic that we're going to talk about today, I know that my audience can take some value from this. But can we just go back to the beginning? And can you share with me how and why you actually became an adaptability expert? Because that's a bit of a niche thing to get into. So can you just take me back as to how that all came about?
Yeah, sure. I think it started with my childhood, in my upbringing, that my parents always told me, you can become whatever you want to be. If it was a Backstreet Boy or a singer or a painter or whatever, I was always supported in that sense. But when I grew up, when I got older, and when I started working in corporate innovation, I saw a lot of people who were, quite frankly, just sad. They were almost like on the brink of depression. Stuck in their ways. They did not have the tools to move forward, to find new possibilities. And I also encountered a lot of students, because I also teach at universities, and also students who, right before going to university, asked me questions like, hey Rob, what kind of education shall I take? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know, actually, because most educations, they sort of take away your autonomy. The things that you learn, they are almost not relevant anymore when you graduate. So there are so much things going on in the world, and there's so much sadness in a way that I felt like, man, we got to fix this. We got to give people the tools to treat their anxiety, treat their stress, have them find new possibilities, and build on these skills, because not everyone gets these skills like during their childhood or during their education, which I think it's almost like a crime.
Absolutely. I think it's the biggest thing nowadays in Western culture, sort of as you said, and some of my previous guests alluded to, like universities nowadays in the education structure, almost like it takes the creativity out of people. It doesn't actually allow them to be creative. And then they leave this education structure, not saying they didn't get a good education, but they then lose that spark that made them unique. And it's only the select few that can actually reignite that spark that then really go on to thrive and prosper. So how you put that there is absolutely perfect. So how, especially from such a young age then, like when you get into some of these people before they get to the education system, what advice do you give them at that age? Because obviously for me, it's like they've got to kind of make their own, not necessarily mistakes. And obviously you don't want to tell them what to do, but how do you guide them in that decision-making process?
Yeah. So the kids in the teenage, I tell them to because a diploma is still a signal. It's a signal in society. Hey, I'm not fully retarded, and I've got a certain thinking level.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like you mentioned, it can take away some of your creativity. So I advise them, take something which is really easy for you to do, that you can just easily get through, get the signal, do a lot of side hustles, things that you are interested in. Go into crypto, start a new company on your own, do all of these things that resonate with you, that make you curious, and then find your drive in that. And for me, the high school and the university education is more of a, like I said, more of a signal.
So with that, then we talked about the cryptocurrency. Like, again, we've already gone down a rabbit hole. We're like 5 minutes into the episode. So for me, when you get these younger kids and trying to get them to think critically for themselves, I think critical thinking is a skill that has essentially been destroyed. When it comes to like cryptocurrency, for example, do you find that a lot of these younger generation are easily influenced on things? So for example, you look at cryptocurrency, that's like a bit of a buzzword. So people will just throw money at things that they think is cool and they think will give them happiness and fulfillment, but they're just kind of going along with the crowd.
Sure, but you should not think that it will give you happiness and fulfillment. If you think that, hey, I'm going to make a few bucks, that's interesting. But if you then learn in 1 or 2 weeks that you aren't and you lost all your money, that's actually a good learning experience. It might sound a bit weird, but I actually believe that to be true.
Yeah,
because the cycles are so quick and so fast in the crypto space, and there are so many new things happening that even I sometimes have difficulty to wrap my head around what the heck is going on there. And I think if you venture more into these places where you think, I have no clue, man, that's actually really good, because then you can train your uncertainty, train to be more okay with uncertainty, ambiguity. And these are skills that you need, because all of the change first gives you uncertainty and ambiguity and makes you shoot into weird emotions, that you have difficulty to control, and then you can't objectively look at things. And you can train yourself to be okay in like cryptocurrency, but you can also do like kickboxing or different types of sports that you find a bit scary, and then you can learn how to deal with those kinds of anxiety.
I think it's also interesting as well, like as we're saying, the world is so fast paced nowadays that even if at that sort of age anyway, even if you do go into cryptocurrency, let's say, or anything, and it doesn't work, just as quickly as it didn't work, just as quickly you can find something else that will work. Yeah. So it's like a double-edged sword. Like, it's easy come, easy go. Like, you can lose it, you can find something else. So it's just, if you go to cryptocurrency, it doesn't really work out for you. By the way, I'm not into cryptocurrency. Just do your own due diligence. Don't just blindly go into things. But I think it's really important that we sort of hit on that if things don't work out for people, you can then sort of shift. So this is obviously the core message.
May I add one more thing?
Of course you can.
What I find very important then is to let the kids learn from their failures. So instead of, I messed up, I lost all my money, or I'm still too afraid to practice kickboxing or sparring or something like that, just write down what you learned from your failure. So thanks to failure X, I learned Y. Yeah. And if you sort of upload that system in your operating system, that principle, that will make your life way more easy. Like nothing is a failure. Nothing is like an endpoint, like a final thing. It's all just play, experimentation, and moving forward.
I use that with my clients as well. I've got 2 things that I say to people. The first thing is, it's impossible to fail if you learn from it, because then by definition, the failure becomes a lesson. And then I use a formula with my clients. So when it comes to their check-ins each week, I basically get them to self-reflect. So if they've messed up, why, and how can you learn from it to move on? So the formula I use is pain plus reflection equals progress. So a lot of people go through the pain, but they don't do the reflection. They don't then ask themselves the tough questions. Right, well, why did that go wrong? How can I learn from it? What did I learn? And then that's how you progress moving forward. So you start to notice these patterns, even if it's like, let's say, go from cryptocurrency to kickboxing, 2 completely different things. However, if you start to notice a pattern in how you are within yourself, you can then start to auto-correct a little bit.
100%. And the things you mentioned, for example, Ray Dalio, he was the CEO of one of the largest hedge funds in the world, and he uses the same principle. And at Spotify, they use the same principle as well. Like, there's a failure, what can we learn from it? Like the reflection aspect that you also mentioned. So it's basic knowledge, but it's also high level thinking, which not everyone has uploaded in their own operating system, unfortunately.
But this is the problem. I think a lot of people are expecting, and this is what I try and get across on the podcast and with my own personal clients, is that people are expecting success to be something crazy. They're expecting that all these successful people know something absolutely outlandish. They don't. They understand the basic principles: accountability, consistency, discipline, and they literally just repeat it every single day, like compounding interest. And it's that simple. There's no magic pill or formula that makes Jeff Bezos any more successful than them. It's just a fact of, he understands that it may be mundane, it may be boring, he will mess up, but he understands that, and he just keeps plying on going forward.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think also following your curiosity is very important in that sense. Because if you're already curious in a specific aspect, in a specific field, then for you, learning and education feels like play. But for someone else, if I need to learn more about math, good luck, man. No, that's not going to happen. But in different fields like art and technology, I'm like a fish in the water, and I don't mind continuously learning, continuously sort of updating my own knowledge.
I think that's really interesting, because that's the thing with me, like being dyslexic. So I do struggle to read. So people find it fascinating that I can only read books that I want to read. So you turned around to me and said, "Oh, Daniel, you'll love this this book about, I don't know from Amsterdam, this Amsterdam person." I'd be like, I'm not really that bothered. If you turn around to me and said, "This book really helped me get to where I'm at," I will then read it. Does that make sense? I can't read something that I'm not interested in. I have to want to read about it. And I think that's also part of the problem with schools and stuff. Like when it comes to reading, I was made to read like Jane Austen. What the fuck do I care about Jane Austen? I don't care. That does nothing for me. But you talk to me about the book Zappos, which is basically the shoe company and how they became successful. I'll read that all day long because I love that. So I think it's really interesting. Now, obviously with your company, like Adaptable Mindset, I think it's important just to define what being adaptable actually means, because I'd like to assume that most people know what adaptability is, but in your world and with what you do, what does it actually mean?
Yeah, for me, it means that any challenge that comes your way, that you will find a solution to tackle that challenge, that you keep a calm mind, that you are connected to the things that are meaningful to you, and that you're able to use these things to find solutions, and that you're also able to create an environment for other people to flourish as well. And these things, they may sound a bit soft and they may sound a bit weird, but it's actually doable to create these sort of spaces where people are aligned with their own goals and where they can use their own inspiration, own curiosity to tackle their own challenges. So my theory is like every challenge is solvable. That should be like your core principle. We just need to find what ingredients you need to solve these challenges.
So how do you go about doing that then? Because that's quite interesting. Obviously, that's a very broad thing to say. It's like we had a gentleman on, Paul Cope, who's now a very good friend of mine, and his title of his book was "How to Solve All of Life's Problems." And I was just like, hold on a minute. Goal. Yeah, I was like, hold on a minute. But then when he broke it all down, it makes perfect sense. So obviously, what you're saying there, it sounds amazing, and I completely get on board with that. And I think a lot of my audience listening are like, okay, Robert, that sounds amazing, but how, in like practical sense, do we go about creating that?
Yeah. So what I see in society and in society in general is that a lot of people are sort of function like a cog in a big machine, like this gigantic apparatus that we call society, or that we call work, or that we call corporate life, and they're sort of devoid from meaning. So they lost their spark, they lost their curiosity, they lost their maybe even a will to live. So you need to connect again to the things that light your flame. The things that as a kid that you really want to do, or that you were doing as a kid. Maybe it was drawing, maybe it was photography, maybe it was running, like whatever. Find those things and connect again to those things and make it a very in a very structural way part of your life. So maybe 3, 4, 5 times a week, interact with these things, update yourself. Then at the same time, you should take care of your mind and body, like decrease stress. Because if you're stressed out, you can have your brain reduced to just 20% left of its capacity. It's very difficult to find solutions with just 20% of your brain, available. Yeah. So there are a lot of these things that, if you want cognitive flexibility, you can do meditation, you can do yoga. All of these things, they work. Like it's been proven that they work. You just need to find what works for you.
Do you find that a lot of people resist this change because we're so conditioned as adults to not really want to have fun. So it's like if you just tell an adult, go, what do you enjoy doing when you were younger? And it could be, I don't know, play computer games, for example. But they're so like, I just don't want to do it. So how do you overcome that?
Sure. Yeah. When I talk about this in some companies, they laugh. They're like, "What? We're going to play? That's impossible here." And like, what kind of life are you living, man? Because if you play, then like any challenge doesn't feel like an actual challenge. You're just playing around. You're just experimenting. You're just trying out a few things here and there. That's a way different mindset, which it sort of makes you get out of the current rut, get out of the current rules because you're just playing around. That's also what kids do. You know, they create their own worlds in their head. And that's something that we should aspire more to do, these sort of things. But I sort of lost track of your question.
The question was, how do we get adults to start playing again? Because I said they're going to have so much resistance to that. So how do you, like you said, they laugh at you originally when you say it. So how do you overcome that barrier?
Yeah, I think one of the things, so first make it very attractive. So let people, what really, really resonates with them. So if it's photography or art or philosophy, let them pull on that thread, let them explore that. Surely that will spark a flame. But at the same time, ego is also often like in between what people want, because you don't want to fail with the thing that you're really longing for. Because if you fail with that thing, man, well, so better try it. So better not try it. Better leave it there, over there in the corner where it's calling my name, where it's longing for me. But no, I won't touch it because if I fail. But if you change your mindset in that aspect and just, hey man, I'm just going to play around with it a bit, just going to experiment a bit, that changes the entire paradigm and create a safe environment. So in most corporates, there is no safe environment.
Mm-hmm. Me and Mikey learned that the hard way. Yeah.
You both got sacked, or
no. We went to a corporate place, and it's just understanding that certain things when we've been to other corporate places as well, like there's not very openness to let people just be themselves and express themselves freely. And again, that then creates not a good workforce because they don't feel like they can actually be themselves. So it's something that's not. It's not good, because something you were talking about there that really sort of struck me, and I wrote it down here. I had a conversation with some people, I think it might have been yesterday, about essentially life is just a game. Like, and sort of when you're talking there, it's like, life really is a game. Like you can pretty much do what you want within reason, like to become successful, but we sort of lose that ability to want to try, like because we are so afraid to fail. But if we just go back to that kid state of, what's the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah, if you sort of, so I heard these sayings before as well, like life is just a game, or be in the moment, and all of these things. You're like, yeah. But they are true, right? And when you actually start to, upgrade again your operating system and think in a way that this is true, even if you sort of believe it, just try it out for maybe a day. Try out maybe. Just try to be that person for maybe half a day, where you just think that you can create everything that you want, because that is true. Because everything before you is created as well.
But so again, this is my I'll go into some deep rabbit holes. So this is my whole theory on this: is that everything is energy. Like absolutely everything in this world is energy. So obviously thought energy is energy. So you've got a choice. You can either think negative or think positive. So this isn't really law of attraction. There's a bit of a deeper level to this. I don't want to go too down a rabbit hole, but it's understanding that most people have got such negative thoughts that all they're putting out is the negativity. So in this game of life,
you'll get it back.
Exactly. So if you can actually just start to play positive, as you said, what's the worst that's going to happen? Especially if you don't like your life right now and you don't like your current situation. What really have you got to lose? Like you have nothing to lose. So you've tried being miserable. Why not try being happy and try being? Try having a bit of fun.
Yeah, but it's not just a rational thing. It's not something that you can just solve through cognition. I think you also need to get the fuck out and start running. Get fit, clear your mind, work out, take care of your nutrition. Like, there's this meme online that a person goes to the doctor and feels depressed. What do we need to do, doctor? Well, you only need to do like meditation, blah, 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 like a dozen things. But it's true. You need to take care of everything. But again, that's also like in a game where you level up, you get experience points, you gather things. And and if you don't do that, you're playing life on hard mode. And that might not be a smart idea.
No. Can I just ask, like, this is not in our show notes at all, but when I'm talking to you, you've got such a calming aura about you. Just talking to you and how you're articulating things. Can I just ask, have you overcome anything in your life? Have you always been like this? Because I mean, just how you're talking and how you're articulating yourself, it's just making me wonder about you as a person. And I know we didn't cover this in what we're going to talk about, but can you give me a bit of a backstory into you? Because I'm just fascinated in this.
Yeah, I think I was way more brutal. So the things that I wanted to happen were going to happen. And I pushed through and I didn't care what would happen. Break walls, turn people over, because I was sort of striving for I don't know, higher goal or whatever, creating a better space for people and those sort of things. But then I think, and through, I guess, life, learning, reading, meditation as well, being able to take sort of an objective distance from yourself and seeing the kind of stuff that you're doing, that helped a lot. And also putting myself in the perspective of someone else. And that was, I almost want to say, very, very frightening. Because first I was pointing fingers at people like, hey, you're not doing anything. Why are you not changing this situation? But I learned that I need to take into account people's upbringing, their stress level, how happy they are. Maybe they just had a fight with their wife. All of these things play a role. And I need to be conscious of those things. And I need to help them solve these things. And that sort of calmed me down as well.
That's such amazing, to show a bit of compassion. Just be a little bit empathetic to what other people are going through.
I'm a strong believer in radical compassion. And I also strongly believe that we lost a lot of that. You can see that with the vaccine debate. It's very binary, right? You're either pro or you're against. And the other party is an idiot. And that's also what the other party thinks. Why can't we just, switch sides as well and look at it from a different perspective? And I think you should do that with everything in life. Also what your doctor says when you're buying a house, that's why you need this cognitive flexibility. That's why you need this adaptability to see things from a different perspective. And you can train that.
So let's talk about, before we go into training it, what is cognitive flexibility? Because you've mentioned that twice now. So what is cognitive flexibility? I love how it sounds, by the way. It sounds brilliant.
In a sense, it's a fancier word than adaptability. Yeah. It is, but there's some science behind it as well. Like when we are kids, when we are younger, your brain is in total state of neuroplasticity. It's very ephemeral. It's still finding its place. We used to think that after a certain time, everything is fixed. Right, everything sort of settles down, and that's sort of the thing that you need to that you can go through life with. We also thought that your DNA that was sort of fixed, and that you also went through life with that. But all of these things, they turn out to be incorrect. You can actually regain neuroplasticity. You can actually change the DNA receptors in your body if you just change the environment. So there are all of these things that we can do to sort of regain a little bit of our flexibility, that we are able to find these new perspectives and new solutions.
So how do we do that then? Because that sounds amazing. And this is something where you see now, this is the power of social media. Like, for all the bashing I give social media, it is absolutely incredible, because if you follow the right pages, which is what I talk to my clients about, you see some amazing information, and you can see this neuroplasticity in brain scans of people that actually in their 70s or whatever actually have regained these functions in the brain, because they're actually trying to learn a new language or learn to play the piano, or they're constantly trying to stretch themselves out of this, I'm just old, my brain's shrinking, because I think that's what a lot of us were told. So when they start to get a bit forgetful in their 30s, let's say, they're thinking, I'm just getting old. It's like, well, no, can you not just challenge that a little bit? So how do we create this cognitive flexibility and this neuroplasticity?
Yeah, you went through quite a few things already. I think the short version is just live life to the fullest. Like what you mentioned.
What a motto, by the way.
Yeah, is that your motto?
No, when I said what a motto, that'd be the shortest podcast ever.
Yeah.
What do you believe, Robert?
But the weird thing is, it's easier said than done. because what do? We, when we get home, if you are allowed to go to the office and things like that, then we grab our phone and we start scrolling on our Instagram or whatever. So that's not creating cognitive flexibility. What is indeed, like you mentioned, playing musical instruments. Doing exercise, yoga, meditation gives you cognitive flexibility, but also the things that have always driven humanity forward, like a certain kind of philosophy, a certain kind of art, even games, even games like Fortnite, what all these kids play. Every few weeks, the entire world changes. And well, good luck dealing with that if you don't have cognitive flexibility. Like everything is constantly changing. So in my view, we can actually learn this skill in many different domains. You just need to find what domain resonates with you, like naturally, and where your curiosity takes you.
I think it's also with intention as well. So once you've now listened to this podcast and you're now talking about this, it's then on the listener to intentionally go out and seek these things. So rather than just going through the motions of life, almost giving themselves permission to have this flexibility, if that makes sense. Like rather than just going through the motions, they are actively choosing it. So then, as you sort of said, then becomes almost fun because they're then taking back control of their life.
Sure. Yeah, I think there's one step before. It starts with awareness, that always like there might be something more here. And then indeed find what resonates with you and then integrate it like a madman in your life. Like it's maybe the most important thing for you, for your family, to find joy, to find prosperity. Because who else is going to do it? No one else is going to do it for you. The only thing that like the society and all the other platforms that are there, they just want your eyeballs. They just want your time. Like Netflix, Instagram, it's just, generally speaking, time grabbing. And it's not helping you in becoming, it's not supporting you in becoming like the most beautiful human being you can become.
Mm-hmm. And I say this all the time. I go on a few little rants about it. The fact, again, I hope my audience, I'm not going to say it for the probably fifth podcast in a row, that again, all my guests come on, they say the same things. It's understanding that the world and society that we live in is programmed and conditioned for a certain type of person. And it basically essentially leads to the common average person, let's say, not being okay, becoming obese, unhealthy, depressed, miserable, and your big corporate companies earning a lot of money from you doing that. Like Mr. Netflix doesn't care what you do. He just wants his money. Mr. Bezos doesn't care. He just wants your money. He wants your eyeballs. That's all they care about. So then and this is the empowering thing for me, which again, I think people hopefully should see it as an empowering thing, that you don't need anyone or anything else. You don't need me. We don't need you. They just need ourselves. They just need ourselves. They have the complete ability to take back control. And although it's scary, because I think most people don't really know themselves, it's also incredibly empowering that you don't have to rely on someone else, because there's nothing worse than when you've got to do a school project or you've got to do something and you're relying on the other person and it's crap. Yeah. So I think it's really empowering. So how do you reprogram people? And I know that's a really broad statement to make, but you were talking about coming off your phones and all that sort of stuff, but it's so easy. Even I catch myself doing it. I'm sure you do too. Like you're meant to be doing some big work and you catch yourself just scrolling on, or you watch a YouTube video and then you're down an hour-long rabbit hole. Yeah. How do we unprogram that?
Yeah. So we've got a specific model, which is free as well, called Filter the Noise, how to create like this mental space. And indeed, I agree with you. Like when you see people waiting at the bus stop, like no one is ever bored again. No one is ever just staring around. They're always just reading the latest news, which is irrelevant, or watching some irrelevant video instead of reflecting, letting your subconscious mind do a bit of the work. But you ask what you can do. So it starts by starting the day in the right way. And that's not with your phone. So you can turn your phone on flight mode in the evening, and I try to leave it on flight mode as long as possible. That's one of the things I used to do for a long while. Then I found out that I can also limit the usage of my apps on my phone. So on 9 o'clock, everything shuts down except weather and maps and a few other utilities. So no social and no phone and no text. And then I try to push it to 10:30, that it turns on again. Now it's like 9:30 or 10. And for the rest, everything on all of my devices is not on push. So I can live my own life and I can decide when I'm going to interact with anyone. So also when people call me, good luck. I won't pick up. I'll call you back or not. Most of the time I won't. And in the beginning, I work with a lot of these corporates, and they expect that you are always on Teams, and they expect that they can shoot in meetings back to back. But when you start saying, "No, man, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to do that," because when I have more brain space, when I can get into a flow state, I can become 500% more efficient. Right? There's research by McKinsey. They've done it for 10 years. So it's true. So if you can actually make the statement that you will be more efficient by doing less of the crap.
I think the corporate things, but that's it, they're so driven on trying to get more out of the employee that they end up getting so much less out of them. And it's just like, we all know what it's like if you go back to back to back. And I think the biggest problem with corporate companies is that the higher people, they have at some point been the workforce, and they know themselves how you can't function like that. The higher you go up the ladder, it's almost like they forget where they've come from almost.
Yeah, it's almost like they. But also in the higher regions, there is less empathy and more psychopaths. That's just. I'm not making it up. Like a lot of C-level is in that way. But yeah, you can just stand your ground and maybe come up with a few solutions for if that doesn't work. That as well.
Show them the research. So start the day off right. So again, I'm a big believer in this. I'm a big proponent in this. Again, hopefully back me up on this, is that your brain is most receptive to information first thing in the morning and last thing at night. So that's why, again, when Rob was talking about this, it's understanding that actually first thing in the morning, if all you do is check on your phone and you have a negative news story, or you see your ex-boyfriend or girlfriend on social media, then straight away you're programming your brain for the day to be on a downward spiral, and then you've got to try and pull it back. Is that correct? And same thing in the evening.
It's almost impossible to get it back. When I start my day with my phone, I'm also stuck with superficial thoughts, and I don't want superficial thoughts. I don't want reactive thoughts as well. I want to live my own life. And maybe it sounds a bit, I don't know what the word for it is, pretentious or something like that, but it's a process, and you can get there.
But you say it's pretentious, and I think this is the problem as well. When people like you and myself are talking, and we're giving people these bits of advice, people will use words like pretentious, boring, strict, whatever it is, but that's their limiting belief. And do you mean that they're placing it on the external thing? It's understanding that actually people will judge on things without trying it themselves. So it's just like I say to clients, just try not having your phone on first thing in the morning. Give yourself, even start off with just 30 minutes longer than you normally would, and just see how much better you feel. And then slowly it builds up. It's like, and they're like, "Oh, you were right." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know I was right." Like, I'm not saying this for any other reason. Like, I'm trying to help. So if you're, how do you start your morning then? Because I've got my routines. I'm not going to go into it again, because I think my audience has heard me talk about it enough about my morning routine. But what does your morning then look like to set you up on the right path? Like, so obviously mine's got like a cold shower, a read.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, of course, cold shower. Yeah, I've been doing that for 5 years now. But anyway, I wake up most of the time with an alarm, sometimes a bit more early. And now my girlfriend is home as well, so we just lie in bed a bit, look at each other. Hey, you're here as well. Yeah, just I don't know, connecting with each other a bit and doing life. And then I do grab my phone, brush my teeth, go in a cold shower. I always hesitate to do that but I don't want to be a pussy starting in the morning already. So I need to do it. And that's already sort of the first win of the day as well. So I can conquer my own mind. Great. And all of the blood is flowing through my body, so I'm fully awake. And then I just, I do often just have breakfast, and I try to not have meetings in the morning. And I try to tell other people that in the morning I'm the most creative. So please try to leave me alone. Doesn't always work in that way. But yeah, that's sort of it.
I love the cold shower we said about conquering the mind. I think it's Tony Robbins was the first person that I heard it from, basically saying that obviously he's got his cryo chambers, wherever he's got his multi-million-pound state-of-the-art things. But essentially what he's saying was fundamentally, and this was the thing for me when I was so desperate at my lowest point, and I heard him say that if you want to get yourself into a better place mentally, you have to take control of that voice inside your head. And he says every single morning when you go to go in that cold shower, your voice is going to tell you not to do it. And you, like a dog, have to say, shut the fuck up, sit, we are doing this, and then you force yourself to do it. And then, as you said, you get that small win, you've taken control, the best version of you's come to play, and you start the day on the up. So I said,
you should watch some I also did an online course from Wim Hof.
Yes,
who's sort of the originator of the cold showers and the breath works. Although he builds further on Stanislav Grof, but if you watch some of his online courses, he dances underneath the cold shower. He's like, "Yay!"
He's just nuts.
It's nuts, but if you do it as well, you're doing that as well on the shower, and it changes how you view things. And indeed, like you mentioned, it helps you conquer your mind.
I say my affirmations in the cold shower. And one of the things I also say when I really start to struggle is I'm doing what other people won't do. So when I'm in that cold shower, I will literally say that I'm doing what other people won't do. Other people can do this, but they don't, or they won't. And then it kind of empowers me to be like, I'm trying to be different. I'm trying to push forward and do that sort of. So straight away, first thing in the morning, I'm giving myself a little bit of a pep talk, like a little bit of a motivational pep talk. Like I'm doing something other people aren't prepared to do, which means that I will get results other people won't. So again, it's a bit of a little bit of a pep talk. And
but that's what athletes do, right? Like Mike Tyson, he got up like 5 a.m, went out for a run because the other guy isn't doing that.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I think you can learn, but that's a bit of maybe a bit too much of a competitive mindset.
I think there's when it comes to competitive mindset, I think there's a certain point where it becomes counterproductive because you literally sacrifice everything, as you said, basically how you were when you described your earlier self. You're so hell-bent on being this supreme person that you just, again, you wake your girlfriend up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go for a run. She's not going to be very happy with you. You're telling her that she's disrupting you and she's doing, it's like, it just doesn't create a good environment to be around. So I think there has to be a level of give and take. So for me, it's like when I'm walking around here with my team, with Mikey, I'm not walking around being like, Mikey, do this, do that. It's like, it's not going to be, even if I'm trying to say it in a productive way, it's not going to help him. But I think just using it in a small little nuances will help you massively. Like for me, just in the cold shower, when I'm by myself, having that word in myself to be like, you're doing this because no one else will do it. You sort of you G yourself up, push you on a level. You can then go into the world. I call it put my body armor on. I put my body armor on, ready to deal with the world. Like as you sort of said, put my armor on first, then I open myself up to the world and my phone and all that sort of stuff. You've said stuff before about helping people connect back to the meaning of life and like to learn from life as well. So to connect with meaning and learn from life. I know we spoke about this a little bit at the start, but I want to sort of like loop back to this again. Connecting with life. How do we get people in the present moment to actually connect and learn from life? I know it's a bit of a loaded question, but how do we get people to actually appreciate the life that they are living? Because so many people have so many things in their life to be grateful for. They have amazing lives. They're in the process of creating amazing lives, but they struggle to connect with that, if that makes sense. It's never good enough for them. They want the next thing. How do we get people to sort of just connect themselves back?
Good. Yeah, interesting question.
And very deep, very loaded.
Indeed. But what helps very much for people who are, not in the right frequency at the moment is a gratitude setting. You probably know this as well. And I like to do the version where we do 3 in the evening. And when someone is, close to depression or whatever, or you're not feeling well, you need to come up with 3 things that made your day. And of course, you first start with, oh, but everything was shitty and it was raining and oh no. And then, but were you able to walk? Yeah. Okay, but that was not something beautiful that you are able to move. And there was not one beam of sunlight that entered your house. Yeah, of course. And the lunch, so you gradually start to explore the very, very tiny things in life and train yourself to find beauty in these things and do them often enough. And it will update your operating system, and you will look at life in a new way. And also, so besides, by the way, doing the cold shower and those things, I also block out all negative information, like news, all of these things. I stopped with that like maybe 5 years ago. And first people thought I was crazy. But it doesn't really harm me. I still get my information, but I get it more from the source instead of from someone who's repeating it. And that also helps, because there's so much negativity in the world. Everyone, there's always someone dying. There's always a war erupting somewhere, and there's never a solution. Like there's only issues. And like, could you maybe also spend some time on sharing some of possible solutions? Maybe. You're a journalist, right?
Just a little bit of happiness, just a little
bit. Maybe. But if you do as much research as I do, like for almost everything, there are solutions. But we just focus on the negativity, of at least media, etc. Focuses on these negative elements because that's equals more clicks, equals more money. So it could be a good idea to take a distance from that and just surround yourself with beautiful things, just with the beauty of life. Like for me, it's philosophy. For me, it's art. These sort of things.
What sort of philosophy do you read, if you don't mind me asking?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I very much like Zygmunt Bauman. Mm-hmm. He passed away already, but he talked about liquid modern society, that everything is going to be liquid. And you see that in relationships, you see that in Tinder, you see that in how much time people spend at companies. Everything is more fluid in a sense. And I like Hannah Arendt as well. And I like Byung-Chul Han. Byung-Chul Han is a Korean philosopher. He speaks about the burnout society and how to handle those things.
I love that. Like I said, I wrote a little note there about books. We'll look back in a second about books at the end. I just wanted to hit upon a few things that you mentioned about frequency, and I love that you mentioned frequency. Again, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but again, just sort of upgrading your frequency, the level you're vibrating at, like the higher. If you look at tuning forks, so for example, in your life, if you have a goal that you want to achieve and that you're looking at, that's on a certain frequency, and you have to tune your body into that frequency so that it actually vibrates together. So I think it's a massive thing. Now, you mentioned it a few times about operating systems, because I know you're very, very tech savvy. That's your sort of background with some stuff. So you mentioned like the brain is an operating system, and like training yourself to upgrade your operating system. So let's just link it around to tech. So as we said at the start, modern society is evolving very, very quickly. Like things are going a bit crazy. You sort of alluded to it there, like the fluid society. How can we stay ahead of this tech-driven world? Because it's not going backwards. It's going to keep going forwards, and it's going to keep evolving at a quicker and quicker rate. So how do we stay ahead of that?
Yeah, 100%. It's developing at breakneck speeds. For example, first a few examples, right, about how fast things are going. So you've got OpenAI from Elon Musk. You are already able to talk to a machine and say, hey, can you maybe put this image here? And can you also make it so that I can control it with my arrow keys? And then the algorithm writes the code for you. So
it literally writes the code.
It writes the code for you. You can also have your Word or your word processor communicate with the AI, and you can then talk to Word, and Word then does a ping to the OpenAI, to the algorithm. For an example, could you delete all initial spaces? And then the program writes that code in Word and then changes that. So there are so many things like these happening. And when people say, well, just focus on engineering, become a developer. Now, all of those things are bullshit, and also don't fit with everyone. So for all of these things, I personally like to invite everyone to interact with these things in a very light way. Just experiment with it, because there's a lot of nonsense going around and a lot of stuff which is not really happening or is way further on the horizon. So I invite everyone to sort of embrace the new things that are going on and then find how you can use these things to sort of better your own life, do less of the mundane things, because it can support you in doing your thing. Yeah.
Are you worried about AI?
100%.
Again, so AI, artificial intelligence, people don't know. Why are you worried about it?
I just think a lot of people, they think that their job won't be impacted, but it will. Like, for example, lawyers. Oh yeah, no, I've got my degree. I make a lot of money. Yeah, but a lot of the stuff that you do, going through all of the papers and finding references and stuff like that, you can do it like a snap of a button. Same with trading. Same with anything processing data, analyzing things. So, but creativity, good luck. Good luck automating that. It's impossible. Empathy, good luck automating that. So these are two key values. And also adaptability and like finding new and different solutions. Like for complex problems. That's also difficult for AI.
But I think it's the worrying thing for me, like, again, I know you're more in this space than I am, is the fact that you're creating something that can, like when we spoke about at the start, about the self-evaluation, pain plus reflection equals progress. That's what they're programmed to do, to learn from their mistakes. They're constantly evolving at a lot quicker rate than we are. So for me, obviously, we've all seen the movies like, what's the movie with Will Smith? I, Robot. Like, so that's doing where the AI becomes evil and stuff like that. I feel like, I don't know, with the stuff that's going on, some of it just really unsettles me with how advanced this technology can be. Yeah. And I look at some of the people that are in control of this technology, and I'm just like, I can see how this could not end well.
Yeah, 100%. If you look at the motto of Facebook, like the earlier motto, which was build fast and break things, they succeeded in doing that. Like the democracy, depression, like things, happened as sort of side effects of them building fast and breaking things. But I want to go into the point of AI. Like you mentioned iRobot, but I think it will happen more under the surface. For example, if you want to have a mortgage, you want to buy a house, but the algorithm has already decided that based on parameter X and Y, that you're not going to get it. And then a human being says to you, oh, no, unfortunately, no, we're so up to here with all of the mortgages that we already set out. Unfortunately, we can't give it to you. These things are already happening because these algorithms, they might become a bit too technical, but they just put you in boxes. And if the box is a bit too wide, then you're just out of luck. Yeah. And that's a very nasty society to be in because you don't have control. You don't have insight in how the AI and how the technology works. And most people who work in the company who has built the AI has no idea either.
Yeah, it's like they're almost like they're making it and then going to correct it as they go along if they can. So it's like they're trying. So to try and have this on a bit of a lighter note with technology, because I don't want it to be all doom and gloom on technology. It's just like these robots.
Oh shit!
The robots destroying the world and lose all my audience base. So from what you've seen with all this sort of stuff, is there a lot of positive advancements from this? So let's just go back to the whole adaptability. Is there technology, apps, things that you've seen potentially coming into the forefront or that you may use yourself within your company that can actually help people?
Wow.
Positively.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm a very, very big fan of no-code prototyping. So back in the days, like 2 years ago, when you want to build something...
is that back in the days now?
That's back in the days. Yeah. Or a week now. But if you want to build something, then you need like a web developer, maybe backend developer. And if you want an app, wow, you need Android, you need iOS, you need the front end, you need a lot of people, cost you a lot of money, maybe 200K. That's what you can spend, and then you have an average product. But now with no-code tools, you on your own, you can just learn how that tool works, and in like a few weeks, you can have your platform, your app, your whatever you want, you can have it ready, and that's insane. So everyone can become an entrepreneur. You can just build the things that you want, and you can just start doing that. You can as a side hustle, as a side quest, if we stick with the gaming analogy, just start it up, man. You have an idea, just start it. Just see how it resonates in the world if people tag onto it, and then iterate. To give you the insight, you can use bubble.io, you can use Figma, you can use Adalo. These are 3 apps where you don't need any programming skills. It's just drag and drop, put items on your screen. Maybe you need a little bit of design, so find a buddy who can do design, or find someone on Fiverr, and you can already get the ball rolling. And I use it in corporates as well, and they're amazed. They're like, they've been talking about ideas for years, and then we come in and are like, hey, you can use this, man. They're like, what?
So you literally can just create like apps, just
sure,
click and drag.
Yeah, there are even apps that you can create an app in 5 minutes.
What?
Yeah, but you need for an example, your database is then a Google Sheet. So if you, for an example, if you want your training schedules or these sort of things, or a little bit of CRM, customer relationship management tooling, just have a Google Sheet and click a button, and in 5 minutes you have an app.
Mate, technology blows my mind a little bit.
Yeah, it is dope. It's dope. And you also see that like individuals, especially in streamers, they become their own production powerhouses, because the software, etc., makes it so easy to create beautiful things.
Yeah, you see the streamers, they've got like 5 or 6. So I've got quite a good streamer as a client of mine. She built her own computer, and she's got all these screens, and you see her, and it's like she's literally something like the Matrix, and you just see all these screens, and she's just typing. I'm just like, blows my mind. And I think parents need to cotton onto that a little bit, like to let their kids. Like, I think a lot of parents fear technology, but that's the way that it's going. Actually, the kids can help. Like I've got a lot of these kids that help their adults doing things. It makes me laugh quite a lot. So to loop this back around then, so again, I want to give the listeners some practical tools here. So all the stuff we've sort of covered, we've covered a lot of things here about like the neuroplasticity, the cognitive flexibility and stuff. And this has been an amazing conversation just for me, because of how you articulate things. I very much enjoy how you've articulated some of this stuff. Like, again, we've got very similar views. My audience would have picked up that the stuff you're talking about, very, very similar, intertwined. But how you articulate things is beautiful. And like I said, you've got such a calming presence about you. It's just been really nice to chat to you. You're like the yin to my yang. Like, I'm the fire and you're the water. So I feel like I've become more chill talking to you. It's like, no, Daniel, calm down. So what exercises do you use to help put some of this stuff into place? So for my audience tonight, they're saying, right, I really want to work on this adaptability stuff. So I know we spoke about meditation, walking, turning your phone off at night and stuff like that. But is there any actual like exercises that you teach people, maybe corporate companies or something like that? Get a bit of an insider thing in here. To actually help people, like just if you just want an exercise or activity that they can do to actually help them with this.
Yeah, sure. So with the corporates, we also blast people with like a tsunami of beautiful things, like a mixture of art, philosophy, all of the things which make life beautiful. But you can also do that on your own, maybe even with a bunch of friends or people who want to evolve. And then it's very easy to do. And everyone can just do this at home. So take an A4 sheet of paper, and then you start with what you're intrinsically motivated about. What gives you energy? And write maybe 8 to 10 things down. And the second question is, how important are these things to you? And you rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. And you write it next to the things that inspire you. And then comes the sort of the icing on the cake, which is how well integrated is it in your life? And then you start to see the discrepancies. So you say, oh, I love yoga. I love going into nature. And oh, fuck, I never do this. Like, oh, but I do say it. And then what is also a good idea is to create sort of, let people create almost like a mood board or a wall of all the things that you find important. And you need to get a little bit into a state of wanting, of longing, of positive energy that, oh, fuck, man, I want to do the yoga, that you're in that state. And then, okay, man, how am I going to solve the things that block me to do more of that?
So you're sort of raising your energy level, so you get so excited about doing it that it kind of propels you to want to do it more. Yeah,
that is very important, because you don't want to just be in your rational cognitive brain. You need to get out of that.
Yeah, I think it's things a lot of people struggle with. They think too much. I spoke about this on the last podcast episode where our way of thinking is very much in a box.
Mm-hmm.
So like sometimes you have to get out of the box. And again, we do that by, again, feeling. So feeling driven, just to drive feelings towards wanting this thing so much that it then forces you to go and do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Two final questions. The first one is, this is more for me, but I know my audience will benefit from this. What books could you recommend? If you had like 3 books that you would say to people, these have really helped me, whether it's philosophy or mental health, mindset, thinking, spirituality books, anything really, but just 3 books if you could recommend them, because as I said, I love everything about you. So I basically I would ask you this off air, but I'm thinking actually I'd rather my audience get this value as well. So what 3 books would you recommend to my audience?
Yeah, so one of the books that maybe it's a bit too big, but I could say that it changed my life is Untethered Soul. Have you read it?
I absolutely, that's one of the books I recommend to people.
Well,
amazing.
It fucks you up, man. It's it changes the entire paradigm. I don't have arguments anymore. There are so many practical tools in there that help you, but you know that already. I also very much like there's a book called, I think it's called Consolations by David White. And these are all poems. And he is able to reframe every word in there and give it a new meaning. For example, there's a poem about anger. And you might think, well, anger is of course something negative, but he manages to reframe it. And I'm not going to spoil it. I just loved how it shows you new different perspectives. And I'm currently reading The Intelligence Trap. And that is about how bright people can make silly mistakes. Now, I do need to make the remark that, I can sometimes find the writer a bit judgmental, but that's okay. He comes from a science background, so everything needs to be proven and peer reviewed or something like that, which is okay. That's his heritage. That's his. That's where he comes from. But there is a lot of research in there as well, which substantiates a lot of things that we've been talking about as well.
I love that, especially So the Untethered Soul, like I said, that's one of my all-time favorite books.
Yeah.
And like I said, towards the end of it, I always pre-frame it with people because at the end of the book, the author starts talking about God quite a bit. Now that can put some people off. But again, my view on religion, again, I'm currently working my way through the Quran, trying to understand all these different religions and stuff. So my basic premise of God is that we are God. We are the creators of the universe that we live in. So I say to my clients that aren't necessarily religious, that in the Untethered Soul, when he starts to talk about God, just reframe it a little bit, just put that as you. So like, just imagine yourself as the creator and then pre-frame it from there. And then you will take the message out. Because sometimes people see the word God and it freaks them out a little bit. It's like, no, take the message that they're saying from the book.
Yeah. I think I don't even remember him talking about God. So I think it's in the last. I think it's in the last chapter. There's not much of it, but I think he sort of just touches on something. It gets just very, very slightly, and I was just a bit like, oh, this might put some people off. So I tend to pre-frame it a little bit. Final question. I ask this to all my guests. What's one bit of advice that you would give someone right now that's struggling? Good question. And of course, there are a lot of people struggling. So I would start with, hey, buddy, man, or a woman, you can get out of this, right? And then maybe go out for a walk, run, exercise, get the body moving, get into a different mental state. And then when you slow down, think of what is really important to you and find ways to integrate that more into life. And also find ways to take a different perspective on yourself as well. Because you know how it's always really easy to give friends advice. Oh, you should just do this and that. But when you give yourself advice, it's always difficult to follow up. But if you are able to take like a third person view on how your life is going, then it instantly makes it easier to objectively look at things and make a proper analysis and take steps forward.
So for example, let's say I'm going through something I maybe would write it down and I'd call myself John. So I'd be like, John is struggling with X. John feels Y. And then I look at that objectively and think, well, okay, if I was coaching John, what advice would I give John? If John was my friend, what advice would I give him? Is that basically essentially what you're saying there?
Indeed, that's one way of doing it. That's writing it down. You can also imagine that you're just a fly on a wall. You can also, what I like to do is make a 3D scan of the room. So if I'm having an argument with someone, I imagine that I take a different perspective and I see myself standing there and I think, oh God, he's going at it again. And then when you also notice other objects in the room, like, then suddenly there's no emotion anymore because you're just seeing the entire thing unfold. And that makes it easier to take a distance from it because you already have a distance from it.
I think that's the biggest thing. Like people, we're too emotion driven, but we're not in control of our emotions.
Yeah.
So I said this a few times on the podcast. I think a lot of us are emotionally numb, emotionally retarded, if you want to, for lack of a better word. We are not in tune with our emotions at all, yet we let our emotions determine a lot of things. So from what you just said there, just take the emotion out of it. Like, how much different would your life look? But like arguing with your partner, what would your relationship with your boss be like, or your colleague, whatever it would be, if you just took that emotion out of it and regain that control? And again, that's where the meditation comes in. It just allows you to just sit with yourself and understand yourself a bit better, because we just don't, the emotions in our brain are the most powerful tools we possess, yet we have no clue really how to control them. And that's essentially what the gift that you're giving people that you work with, is giving them the tools to, as you said, just regain control of their computer programming system.
Yeah, and maybe the ability to take a different path, take a different perspective, and just try that out. And when you've done it once, you can do it 2 times, and then it becomes part of your being.
Life's all about choice. So it's about helping people make the right choice. This has been an absolute pleasure. Where can people find out more information about you? What's your website and what's your social media links? And I'll get Mikey to ping them across the bottom.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's adaptablemindset.com. Actually, a lot of the things that we talked about are there, freely available for people to read. And Robert Overweg on Twitter, if you can spell my last name correctly.
It's over them. Does it have an umlaut or something? Is it, or is it not?
No. It's what we in the Netherlands. We've got many different, like the grachtengordel. We've got many sounds that you don't have.
No, so my one of my best friends lives in Antwerp. So I've heard him speak before, obviously when I lived with him in America, and literally that's essentially what it sounded like. I was like, mate, I ain't got a clue what you're talking about. I was like, I don't have a clue. So you're trying to teach us, and I just couldn't get my head around it. So honestly, Robert, thank you so much for your time. This has been absolutely incredible.
Thank you so much for having me. It was wonderful.
It's been a pleasure. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.